Walking Stick Library presents Antibiotic Drug Overuse and Bacterial Resistance with your librarian hostess with the mostest, Eileen Kramer. And don't forget, you can catch us live on Twitch. And this was inspired by the Prather Point at Cloud Hub. Take that down, and they put on this wonderful commercial. And often the commercials are the best part. This is Dr. Sean Rowland, who runs, gonna get the volume off.
And really the results, or I guess the reports we've gotten back from people are talking about peace of mind, but also people who end up using them who never intended on needing it. There's just no shortage of scenarios where you might find yourself, whether it's just pure convenience, not having to go down in the middle of the night, like I mentioned, to the pharmacy, or you're traveling and you're in a foreign country, dealing with that system and navigating that. Why not have that medication on hand? No shortage of scenarios. We've found a great response from anyone who does do it, never regrets having done it. We just need to get the word out to more people that this is something that they can do and that they should do.
Okay, and this is what Sean Rowland is selling. And if you want to see what is in a Jace case, we'll let you watch a little more of this.
Life can be pretty unpredictable, filled with good days and not so good days. And sometimes the only difference between the two is your level of preparedness. That's why there's the Jace case. It prepares you for a wide range of emergencies. It comes pre-filled with essential antibiotics that treat over 50 infections, with the option to add additional meds, including prescriptions. The difference here is you don't have to wait to see a doctor, then wait again for a prescription to treat often painful bacterial infections. The Jace case is right there, when you need it, pre-filled with the medications you need. With the Jace case within reach, treatment is in your hands. With shortages becoming a daily occurrence, you'll have peace of mind even if pharmacy shelves go bare. To get your Jace case, just fill out a simple online form, then add to cart. Jace case helps you turn those not-so-good days.
Okay, and let's see what's in this thing. Let's see what goes in a Jace case. Products. VAC. Products. Okay. And here's a whole bunch of things about how to pay for it. And somewhere here it says what's in the Jace case. Get started. Okay, standard case. New patient, continue. And this is going to say I'm in the United States. Continue. I'm female. Continue. And I don't have any allergies. Gee, this is a nice little medical consultation, and this is what you get. You get 28 tablets of amoxicillin. You get 6 tablets of azithromycin, 28 tablets of ciprofloxacin, 120 capsules of doxycycline. And here we have metrazole known as flagellant. That is not an antibiotic, I don't think. It's an antiprotozoal. And it can be used for Giardias and C. diff and quite a few other things. This cost you $270. Now, my first thought when I saw this was, this is, and I'm going to use the nice lady curses, make sure we're really where we need to be. The nice lady curses that I've grown up with. This is a sucky idea, S-U-C-K-I-E. And boom, boom. Three times sucky. The first thing, yay, my stream elements are here at least, so I'm not totally alone. Now, the reason why this is sucky is that a lot of times an infection is viral, and you don't know the difference. You really don't. You come down with a nasty sore throat, you don't want to throw antibiotics at it. Unless you're sure there's strep going around and you've caught strep from someone in the house before a doctor sees you and does a white count or a throat culture. And the reason you don't want to throw these things around is there are superbugs out there and you don't want to breed resistant microbes. It's kind of a tragedy of the commons. I mean, if you got stuck without antibiotics and you came down with an infection, chances are hot lemonade and analgesic would make you feel better, and you'd either kick the thing in a few days because it was viral, or worst case scenario, you'd be in bed for 2 weeks in an emergency where there are no antibiotics. Not that antibiotics don't get you healthy a lot faster. I had a lot of strep throats as a kid. I come from a family where people get really sick with infectious disease. But this is just not a good idea. So let's get Miro out. Do-do-do-do-do-do. And that was where we were last night. Let's get us somewhere better. I'm going way up in the corner. This thing just keeps getting bigger, which I really like. It keeps growing. That's nice. And what we are looking at is, let me get my circles, is we are looking at overuse or carelessness. A lot of words here. So what we're looking at is overuse of antibiotics. And humans with infections are not the main culprit here. A lot of it's agriculture, but you still don't want to do it. And we're looking at over here, antibiotic resistance. And over here, we can think of it as bacterial resistance. Yep, that's a synonym. Somebody's not typing very well tonight. That's me. My wiggly fingers aren't wiggling as they should. And over here, we can think of overprescribing. I wasn't thinking of this earlier, but tonight's a good night to think of stuff. And you want to get out of that habit. And you want to put these together, and we can do this on the big box. We can do this in Medline. We probably could just have antibiotics over here with an asterisk. I'm going to take the squiggler and I am going to put our synonyms here. We can move them around and swap them out. What we're looking for is this nice area in here, the overlap. We're interested in what happens with overuse and antibiotic resistance. And if we bring in the farmers, I will be just as happy as I will be if we bring in other things. There's also an environmental aspect to this. I did some rehearsals today, so we kind of know that stuff. So let us get Google. And let's go to GSU Library because we want an academic library to beef us up here. And I'm going to check again. I'm going to check, see if anybody came in. It's okay if nobody did because it happens some nights. I'm going to try overuse and antibiotic resistance. We could also do this with Medline and try to get what we're getting. Though I'm thinking overprescribing is probably a better way to go. Because this Jace case is, oops, wrong one. This Jace case is clearly overprescribing. You're not sick with anything. You don't know if it's viral or bacterial. The whole 9 yards. And let's go in here and have a look. Here we have one for starters. The behavioral determinants of antibiotic resistance, the role of social information. And when we open it up, we'll see what subject headings they are using. Antibiotic overuse and drug resistance in bacteria. Nice. And again, we can get this online full text without any problem. And close that sucker up. And here, the increasing development of resistant pathogens is one of the greatest global health challenges. Antibiotic overuse amplifies antibiotic resistance. Antibiotic intake poses a social dilemma in which individuals need to decide whether to pro-socially reduce their intake in the collective interest versus to overuse it even in the case of mild diseases. We devise a novel behavioral game paradigm to model the social dilemma of antibiotic intake. Using a new method of an incentivized laboratory experiment, 272 German participants were studied, and we varied whether players had mutual knowledge about their antibiotic intake. The results indicate that there was substantial antibiotic overuse in the absence of social information. Overuse decreased when social information was present. Our post-experimental survey data further suggests that social information impacts people's behavioral motivation. Evaluation of the other player was positive affect. Taken together, providing social information about people's antibiotic intake may help in reducing antibiotic overuse. On a more general level, novel behavioral game may be adapted to study other aspects of antibiotic intake to promote prudent use of antibiotics. And my social stuff was when I used to go to the doctor in college, and they would not give you an antibiotic till you had a positive white count. No white count, no antibiotic. You went home and suffered. The hot tea and analgesics. Okay, that's a good one. Skewed perception of personal behavior as a contributor to antibiotic resistance. Underestimation of the risks. Interesting. And again, I don't see that here, but it looks somewhat interesting. And this one just goes to PDF. It's +1. So you get this easily. This is also not paywalled. The increasing prevalence of antibiotic-resistant bacteria poses a significant threat to global human health. Countering this threat requires the public to understand the causes and risks posed by antibiotic resistance. To support changing healthcare and societal approaches to antibiotic use. To gauge public knowledge, we designed a questionnaire to assess the awareness of antibiotic resistance, both personal and societal, and knowledge of absolute and relative risks posed by antibiotic-resistant bacteria. I do not know how many times I used to tell my colleagues not to wipe down the desk with disinfectant, because all you're doing is breeding superbugs. You don't want to do that. You want ordinary bugs. They're much safer. Our findings reveal that while, you can tell this keeps me up at night. Our findings reveal that while 90% of respondents recognize personal behaviors as limiting antibiotic resistance, few individuals recognized social factors, the use of antibiotics in livestock. Furthermore, respondents named viruses either by name or as a group. More respondents named viruses either by name or as a group than bacteria as reasons to take antibiotics, indicating a lack of understanding. The absolute numbers of current and predicted future deaths attributed to antibiotic-resistant bacteria were underestimated, and respondents were more concerned about climate change and cancer than antibiotic resistance across all age groups and educational backgrounds. I think somebody might come in, but they didn't. And what you probably want to do with something like this is look at the date. We always look at the date. You can see this was 3 months to publication, didn't get published till November. So between acceptance and publication, you have a good, healthy 5 months. This is a good journal. And if we go to the end of the article, this is a good place to look for references. Yeah, scary stuff. So lots of these to pick and choose from, and you can see the date. If you wanted this one, you could right-click, open a new tab. Antibiotic resistance and persistence, implications for human health and treatment perspectives. This is 2020, and it looks like you actually have an open access journal, which is very nice. And here we have something that's in tiny font that we do not want in tiny font, not for your eyeballs or my eyeballs. My tongue is twisted too. First it's the fingers, then it's the tongue. Antimicrobial resistance, AMR, and persistence are associated with an elevated risk of treatment failure and relapsing infections. They are thus important drivers of increased morbidity and mortality rates, resulting in growing healthcare costs. Antibiotic resistance is readily identifiable with standard microbiological assays, and the threat imposed by antibiotic resistance has been well recognized. Measures aiming to reduce resistance development and spreading resistant bacteria are being enforced. However, the phenomenon of bacteria surviving antibiotic exposure despite being fully susceptible, so-called antibiotic persistence, is still largely underestimated. In contrast to antibiotic resistance, antibiotic persistence is difficult to measure and therefore often dismissed, potentially leading to treatment failures. In this review, we focus on bacterial mechanisms allowing evasion of antibiotic killing and discussing the implications on human health. We describe the relationship between antibiotic resistance and bacterial heterogeneity and discuss recent studies to link bacterial persistence and tolerance with the evolution of antibiotic resistance. When you use an antibiotic or a disinfectant on bacteria, you create natural selection, and only the resistant survive. And here is how COVID-19 is accelerating the threat of antimicrobial resistance. BMJ is a good one. And again, we're hitting a lot of open access because you hit that in biology. And here we have the global threat of antimicrobial resistance. Bacteria and other superbugs is worsening as many patients admitted to the hospital with COVID-19 receive antibiotics to keep bacterial infections in check. Yeah, you don't want to throw those around for a virus. Since the emergence of COVID-19, collected data have shown an increase in the use of antibiotic use, even though most of the initial illnesses being treated have been from COVID-19 viral infections, says Dawn Sievert, Senior Research Science Advisor for Antibiotic Resistance at the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The resulting increased exposure to healthcare settings and invasive procedures, along with the expanded antibiotic use, amplifies the opportunity for resistant pathogens to emerge and spread. Nasty, nasty. And let's see what else we have here. And here we have antibiotic prescribing in general practice during COVID-19. Let's open this up. And here we have it. Let's get this so I can do a little bigifying here, because otherwise we have a tiny, tiny thing that nobody can read. National Health Services in England publishes monthly data on national appointment activity in general practice. The number of face-to-face appointments in the setting from April 1st to August 31st, 2020 decreased by 51.5% to 50% compared with the corresponding year, whereas the number of telephone appointments increased. NHS England publishes monthly data on national prescribing activity in general practice. These data include antibiotic use, which the NHS has committed to reducing to prevent antimicrobial resistance attributed to inappropriate prescribing for non-bacterial infections such as influenza or COVID-19. The number of antibiotic prescriptions made in general practice between April 1st and August 31st, 2020 was 15.4% lower than the figure in the previous year. However, given the decrease in absolute number of appointments over this time, this number of prescriptions is 6.71% higher than expected. Meh. I say meh. And over here we have tracking knowledge and awareness of by the general public and pharmacists about antibiotic prescriptions. This is Biomed Central Public Health 2018. It's a little old, but it's kind of on our topic. Antibiotic resistance continues to be a serious problem. Many factors contribute to antibiotic resistance, including inappropriate use of antibiotics, in which both the healthcare professionals and patients play a contributing role. This study aimed to assess the awareness and knowledge of antibiotic usage and AR among the general public in affluent and deprived areas and community pharmacists in Greater London. And again, this would be an interesting study to see if anybody has cited, if we feel like doing that. I'm going to leave this up and see what else is here. Lots of stuff. So let's go back and we can see what else we pulled. I've got to get back to the result list, don't I? Let's see if that worked. And we're slow, but that's okay. And whole genome sequencing of Lactobacillus brevis HQ11 for understanding antibiotic resistance genes. Not what I'm really looking for. This is kind of interesting. A model of antibiotic resistance gene accumulation through lifetime exposure from food intake and antibiotic treatment. Okay, I'm not really seeing this. This is a review article, 2024, Assessment of Global Antimicrobial Resistance Campaigns Conducted to Improve Global Awareness. Let's make sure we can get that. And again, we're doing very well tonight. We're not even having to do a find it. And we're spinning. We're going to spin all night. Yes, we are. I'm going to hit F5. We're still spinning, folks. let's give it another minute or so. And we're going to try this over in Medline, but with a few changes, because my Medline search results came out really terrible when I was rehearsing. Anyway, this is a review, and this is very good if you're writing a big paper on raising awareness of antimicrobial resistance and encouraging people not to overuse antibiotics. Public health campaigns with a well-defined outcome behavior have been shown to successfully alter behavior. However, the complex nature of antimicrobial resistance creates challenges when evaluating campaigns aimed at raising awareness and changing behavior. To determine what campaigns have been conducted and which have been reported as effective at improving awareness and changing behavior, we want to find that out. And so this is a meta review. And the nice thing about this, if you are a student, is you can, in English 1101 or in a public speaking class where you would be writing this, this is great. And they're using Pico, which is one of my favorite things to use, and you could use it for anything. You'll notice all of these cute little numbers in brackets. This leads to the reference list at the end. So when you get done with the paper, you can start looking. You can also read the paper, and I recommend you read the whole stinking thing, especially for something like this. And when you see something that interests you. Furthermore, very few studies were identified with which assessed campaigns were cost effective. So you could go to 19, and it would take you to 19. Antibiotic use and resistance in Belgium, the impact of 2 decades of a multifaceted campaign. And you could decide that you liked this, you copy it, you go back to the library. I'm going to go to Google and show you. And you open it up. We pop in the title in quotes. You can do this in the big box because it includes Medline. Go. And we'll see if we clunk. And we have to log in again. That happens all the time with this. This is a relatively new interface. It's about 6 months old. Nobody likes it, and we didn't get it because I left off the A. Go again. You have to watch for typos. That's just part of the deal here. And there it is. And then you could try to find it and see how well you did. And if we clunk, that's perfectly fine. We clunk. You might say, if you were writing a real paper, it would take about 3 days to get this, sometimes less. These electronic ones show up very, very, very fast. And again, this is not that old, and it might be interesting. So that's how that works. Now, if we're going to go to Medline land, overuse didn't work very well. So we're not going there. I'm sorry. This comes out. This goes in. This can get moved. And it may have a hyphen in it. We can try it both ways. Now, I think in Medline, it's bacterial resistance. So we're going to do another swapperoo, and we can try that. And I can look up. We can use the thesaurus to get the right term for bacterial resistance. And then we can look at overprescribing and seeing what we get. And we can also have some fun in Agricola, which is our agriculture index, because antibiotics are used as a growth enhancer in animal feed. And they don't even give the poor animal enough if they get sick. Okay, let's get Medline going here. Okay. Let's see if that gets us back. Oh, it did. That's very nice. We're going to ignore the big box and scroll down. We're going to go to M, and you know that our typical searches are full of good Medlininess or Medliney goodness. You can tell because Medline is always black, which means somebody went here and opened it up. And that was me. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is get the thesaurus, which is called MESH 2025. MESH stands for Medline Subject Headings. Nobody came by. I feel bad. I probably should have told them I was going live, but I didn't. Okay, term begins with antibiotic resistance. And here they say use drug resistance microbial. Okay, we go back and run this again because I like it at the way it looks at the beginning. Term begins with, I just like that better. I can grab this, I can measure it, and I'm gonna search it. It's okay if we get tons and tons of stuff, because I'm gonna add our and over here, overprescribing, and I'm gonna put it in quotes. Let's bring this over. It makes my life a lot easier to have everything next door. You can do this with your Firefox or your Chrome. Overprescribing. Asterisk. Overprescribes, overprescribe, overprescribed, overprescribing. This is easier to do. Truncation is always easier to do if you use a Roman alphabet. And if you have a language with some Romance roots, English is a hybrid Romance and Germanic language. So English speakers, French speakers, Spanish speakers. Oh, wow. This is lovely, but it's not in English. I want to see what the subject headings here were, because I didn't do a very good job. Okay, that looks interesting. I'm going to keep an eye on it. It's not in English, but it's a good choice. And I don't care that we only have 7. Whoa, that's southern Ethiopia. All right. Impact of vaccines on antimicrobial resistance. Let's have a look. I'm looking at the age. This is 2020. Prescribing here is a subject heading. Antibiotic use drives the development and spread of resistant bacterial infections. Antimicrobial resistance has become a prolific global issue due to significant increases in antibiotic use in humans, livestock, and agriculture. Inappropriate use, underdosing, and overprescribing, and misuse of antibiotics for viral infections. This is landing right on the money. So what I'm going to do is get rid of this, which was wonderful. And I'm going to change this to MM, prescribing. That's all. I could even make it an MH. I can make, this is, what I did here was get you out of there, put you in. Prescribing as a mesh heading. And over here we have, I'm on the wrong side, aren't I? I am. Okay. This goes here. This goes out. This goes in because we have a different heading. Drug resistance. Pull it. Microbial. And these are both mesh headings, and I could have a way of indicating that, but I don't. So that's what this looks like now. And we have it the other way around because this is commutative. It can go in either direction. And that's math is useful. Math theory is extremely useful for certain things. Okay, now let's let her rip and see how well we do. We had 7 here before. We now have, this is not really helping. Why didn't this work? Okay, I'm going to loosen it just slightly. MH is mesh heading. Okay, let's try again. We're going to go with the thesaurus. I can't believe that this didn't loosen up. Prescribing. Looky what I see. Inappropriate prescribing. I'm going back. And now we have what we need to find. We didn't even think about that. Bingo! And I want to make that major. And I'm going to make this a lot simpler. We could do drug resistance or just resistance with this. I'm going to search and I'm going to add go find it for me. I have 77. We hit it. And you can hear that little target go. It was a good one. We hit a good one. And again, you can see some of these are a little old. They only really start in 2011, but and they go to 2022. I'm going to put my cutoff at 2015, and I still have 48 to pick from. Complex determinants of inappropriate use of antibiotics. And I don't have an abstract. And here I have inappropriate prescribing. We landed right on it. If I click PDF, I hopefully get an abstract. I like abstracts. You do too? We need a little more. And this looks like some kind of and here we have at the end stuff. Inappropriate use of antibiotics in humans and agriculture is one of the drivers of the emergence of antimicrobial resistance, the prevalence of penicillin-resistant pneumococci, macrolide-resistant streptococcus pneumoniae, and S. pyrogenes strongly correlates with total antibiotic use in outpatients. Such inappropriate use is the result of complex interactions between demand for and supply of antibiotics. The use of antibiotics in the retail sector, for example, in pharmacies and drugstores. The healthcare sector in farms involves both professional and unqualified personnel from various sectors. These personnel operate within their country-specific regulatory environments and have different economic incentives. In the retail sector, there are several challenges on the demand for antibiotics. Prevalence of non-prescription antibiotics is high in some countries, such as in Bangladesh, Brazil, and Sudan. Yikes. In these countries, the prevalence of antimicrobial resistance is higher in communities who use non-prescription antibiotics more frequently. And here you can get down to down here, oh, they've got a whole bunch of research here. And here you've got all these wonderful, wonderful, slightly old articles, since this is a slightly old article. But definitely we're on the right track. So that was our first one. And here we have combating antibiotic resistance using guidelines and enhanced stewardship in Kenya. A protocol for an implementation science approach. And we can click find it and see if we clunk. We're not going to clunk. Not going to happen. And here they're doing it in Kenya, but remember, everything can get on a plane and come visit you. Antimicrobial resistance is a growing problem globally, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, including Kenya. Without any intervention, lower middle-income countries will be most affected due to already higher AMR levels compared with higher-income countries due to the far higher burden of disease, and also because they often don't require a prescription. Studies have consistently shown that inappropriate use of antimicrobials is a major driver of antimicrobial resistance. Get lost. To address this challenge, hospitals are now implementing antibiotic stewardship programs, which have been shown to achieve reduced antibiotic usage, to decrease the prevalence of resistance, and lead to significant economic benefits. And they're going on more stuff that we are not going to go on to, but thank you anyway. And targets for the reduction of antibiotic use in humans in the Transatlantic Task Force on Antimicrobial Resistance Partner Countries. Impact of a prescriber-driven antibiotic timeout in use in hospital patients. This is a linked full text. So we can click this and see if we get in. I love testing for clunks. Clunks are fun. And here they are. And a multi-center quasi-experimental study of a provider-driven antibiotic timeout in 347 of 3470 antibiotic courses showed no difference in antibiotic use before and after implementation, but did show a decrease in inappropriate therapy. Single timeouts without input from antibiotic stewardship teams are insufficient to optimize prescribing. Now, the problem with these, although they're pretty good, most of these are pretty good. Is that most of these are a little old. And with biology related and healthcare related stuff, age is important. Things get stale fast. I like it bright, shiny, and new, so do most students. That is a good instinct. So we have this wonderful 2018 article, and it's just like perfect in some ways. And I'd like to see if anybody cited it, because anytime this ends up in someone's reference list, the article is newer. We go forward in time. So what we want to do is see who cited this. And it's fun to do a citation search. And somebody came in the door. Hello. Hello, Vengeful Arranger. I didn't even see you come in. It's good to see you. Can you tell me how you found out about me? Because I always like to know. And you can pick our next topic if you'd like, because we're kind of coming to the end of this one. Okay, I'm going to set up the citation search. Now, if you've ever done one of these, you need an academic library. And true story, I traveled 200 miles round trip to get to Atlanta from Columbus, GA, to run a citation search for a paper something I was researching. I think it was a paper I was writing. But I wanted to see who had cited my older material. And I went over to Georgia Tech, walked in the door, shoved a flash drive into the machine, sent everything home by email or downloaded it, went home with nothing in my hands, not carrying anything. Free, wonderful. We didn't have it in Columbus, so I had to travel 100 miles to get to it. So we're going to show you what a citation search looks like. And this is a lot of fun. You can do this at any large academic library. And we can talk about getting you access. In the United States, it's usually pretty easy. You need some form of ID. It needs not to be during finals time, which is December and May, and certain times, and the middle of May. If you're going in mid to late December or mid to late May, early the month of May, you may not be able to get in. But normally, you can show your ID at the door, sign in a sheet. If you have your own computer, you can get on the guest Wi-Fi. If not, you can ask for a guest computer. Most of these places let you do that, and you can email the stuff home to you. It's called walk-in access. I've got my privileges because I'm a retiree. Okay, let me get Google. Let me get us back to GSU Library. We were using it earlier, and this works really well. This is GSU Library. I worked on one of their perimeter campuses until January 1. You scroll down where you have databases by name, and I'm going to keep an eye on you. Databases by name, this is the alphabet. We want the database that does citations, and that is called Web of Science. It had a lot of other names. For years it was called Science Citation Index, Social Science Citation Index, Arts and Humanities Citation Index. I used it in print for the first time when I was 19 years old. It's just something you know about, or somebody tips you off. And usually you get tipped off for a very classic reason. All my articles are stale. Yeah, I say it that way. I need something newer. And this article is so good, but it's 7 years old. Why do I want an article that's 7 years old? Is there any way to find newer stuff on this topic? That's why we're going to Web of Science. And after Web of Science was Science Citation Index, it became SciSearch, Social SciSearch, Arts and Humanities Search, and then it became Web of Science. So it's gone through 3 name changes, but it's still the citation index. And the reason most people do it is they find good older articles and they want newer ones. And anybody can do it. I did one a few weeks before I retired. I helped a student do one of these. He was a dual enrollment 17-year-old student. All you have to do is switch it to cited reference. And we can search everywhere. And then we go back here and get the author's last name. It's Mason. I'm going to guess it's Mason. It's either Mason or Thuy. Pop that in. We switch this all the way down to cited title. And in our cited title, we have perception of pharmacists. I'm going to take just a little phrase out of the title. I don't need very much. I'm going to put it in quotes. Quotes bind it like rope. And what we're looking for is, I'm going to show you this on the diagrams a lot better than I can any other way. What we're looking for is, let me get my circles. This is great. This makes circles all the time when you draw them. And we live and die by our Venn diagrams here. I didn't like the way that one came out, so I'm going to squish it. and make it larger. And yeah, now they're about symmetrical. We're looking for Mason, who is our author. And we're looking for perceptions of pharmacists. And the goal when you do something like this is to get one item. This is a known item search. It's classic. All citation searches begin as known item searches. We want to get the article. I don't need squiggles. We want to put this together and get the overlap between the title and the author. And because there are many last names and there are many variations of titles, your likelihood to get a very low number of responses. And you want that to be low. One is optimum. 0 is a pain in the tail. 1 is optimum, and 5 or 6 is okay-ish. You don't really want more than that. So this is what we have. This is the search. This is what we have. The circles become rectangles, and you search. And it looks like we got 3. But we're going to take all of them because this is the article. We got 55. Let's go. See, now we see the results. And there are 51 citations for this one article. And that's something that we didn't even get close to. Human and veterinary medicine collaboration. Remember, a lot of these are fed to animals. Synergistic approach to address antimicrobial resistance through the lens of planetary health. And we can view full text. Bingo. And what's the year on this? Yeah, 2025. And here they are talking about antimicrobial resistance represents a critical threat to human, animal, and environmental health, challenging global efforts to maintain sustainable ecosystems and public health systems. So this stuff gets in the soil too. In this review, the complex cross-disciplinary issues of AMR are explored within the framework of planetary health, emphasizing interconnectedness of human and veterinary medicine with broader environmental and social systems. So this might be a fun one if you want to give good reasons not to throw antibiotics around. And it's also a 2025. Way to go. And empowering Thai community pharmacists in combating antimicrobial resistance, qualitative insight, and sentiment analysis. And this may be a part of the world where you can get antibiotics without a doctor. We can take a quick look, but this is one I wouldn't have thought about. And the reason we're getting a lot of these free and open like this, open access like this, is a little organization called the National Institute of Health, which Robert F. Kennedy may end up lording it over if he gets approved. NIH has a rule that if you take their funds, you publish open access. That's why you're seeing this. And again, I would have to see if you can get this stuff in Thailand without a prescription. And they're doing this all over the world, and I think for some of this that might be okay. I usually tell students you have to decide if, and again I'm in the United States, if countries outside America are comparable. And this is not my favorite. Cureus I'm a little worried about. I think it's predatory or it's bottom feeding, but it still might be interesting. We could look that up one night. I am going to get the free full text from the publisher, and I'm going to bookmark this for another search. Yeah, I can get the PDF. Well, it's part of Springer Nature. I'm just reassured. Okay, this probably is okay, and again, And there it is. It just wanted me to tell it I was not a robot. And again, a lot of these are outside the US, but that's okay. For this topic, that would be okay. And again, I like the date. I want to look at the date on this. This is 2024. So again, this would be hitting the target. Let's do one more, and I'm going to come up for a little air, and we can pick a second topic. Let me see how you're doing over here. Okay, vengeful. I hope you just, well, you're not here. And this one we saw earlier. And that might be interesting. But that's a different night. I go through chat streams. I go through Twitch like that. I sometimes hit for 10 minutes and leave. And again, this one's Medellin, Colombia, 2023. Knowledge and attitude and practice regarding antibacterial and their resistance. So these would all be useful, even if it was other countries. And they have these in a lot of different countries. Assessment of home storage of antimicrobials and its predictors in a Mecca Demographic Surveillance and Field Research Center. And we can get the full text from the publisher. It's a little different. And that, remember, our folks with the JACE cases are doing just that. Let me take us back. It's nice to see the outside. They are storing antibiotics. Home storage of antimicrobials is a worldwide practice. Irrational storage and inappropriate use of antimicrobials should get special attention in low-income countries due to limited information, knowledge, and perceptions. This study was conducted to survey home storage of antimicrobials and assess its predictors in Mecca Demographic Surveillance and Field Research in the Amhara region of Ethiopia. Well, what can I say? Again, for this particular project, I would say other countries are fine. Thank you for watching. And remember, you can catch me live on Twitch.